You can export a VM from one machine and import it to another. You could even export a VM you created on your Windows 10 laptop or desktop and import it into a 2019 server. Or you could do the opposite. Create it and export it from 2019 and import it into Windows 10. Completely compatible. When you do that, three strange terms come up. It'll ask you when you import if you want to register the virtual machine, if you want to restore the virtual machine, or if you want to copy the virtual machine. A little confusion can come out of these. If you register the virtual machine, what that means, the current location of the exported files is where the virtual machine will run from. When you import it, the virtual machine has the same ID as it did when you exported it. The export files now become the running state and can never be removed. So picture this. You export your VM. When you do that, you put it on a USB drive. Then I take the USB drive and I copy the files from the USB drive to my desktop on the server. And your thinking is, I'm just going to go and I'm going to import these files from the folder on my desktop that I just pasted. Well, if you click register, it's going to work. But what it's going to do is register the machine, and it's going to take that folder on your desktop and set it as the location. Once you do that, you cannot move the folder, you cannot delete the folder, so you'd never want it on your desktop. If we look at the restore, it says you're given this option to store the VM files in a specific location or use the default location, the Hyper-V. This creates a copy of the exported file, moves them to the selected location. Imported virtual machine will have the same ID as the VM you exported. When the import is completed, the exported files remain untouched. Now, in the scenario we outlined above, where you exported a VM and you put it on a USB stick, you then took the USB stick and copied the files to your desktop. Well, when you restore the virtual machine on import, it will create a copy of all those files and it'll put them in the default Hyper-V location. That's what you would want if you had this folder on your desktop. Then when you're done, you simply go delete the folder off your desktop. You no longer need it. Now the default location in Hyper-V is through your C users public folder. The only time you would do register is if you copied all the files to the correct location on the Hyper-V server itself. I would never do that, because you have to put the VM files in the right folder, the virtual hard drive in the right folder. It just creates more work. You just restore it, and it's going to create all the files in the correct location where they belong, and you don't have to worry about it. So that's, in my personal opinion, that's my preferred option. The other option is to copy the virtual machine. Now it tells us this is similar to a restore. You select the location of the VM files, but when you import it, the only thing that's different is it generates a new unique ID. What that means is you can import a virtual machine into the same host multiple times. Now, one advantage of doing that. Let's say you have a VM in your environment. I'm going to call it VM1. It's in your production environment. You want this exact VM so you can test a bunch of software on it. One thing you can do is export it. Once I export it, you can then import it back into the same exact host. Now, when you import it, it's going to let you give it another name. So I could call it, I'm just call it imp VM1. So you know it's VM1, just an imported version. And it generates a unique ID. But they have the same exact configuration, applications, data, everything. Now you go test whatever you want on this imported copy of the VM, but they run on the same host. So no, copy you would only do if you're going to import, export to the same host. Restore puts the files in the default location of Hyper-V. When you register, it registers the files in whatever location you have them in. When you browse, because when you import, it's going to ask you to browse. Whatever that location is where it's going to register and run the VM files from.